In today's video, let's talk about whether or not it's time to make the jump from Windows. Spoilers, I think it definitely is. And if you're in the market for a PC that isn't the Steam Machine because either it's underpowered for your taste or you're on the 2027 waitlist, I've got 3 different builds I picked out, including my very own custom build, which I don't want to pat myself on the back, is basically the best AMD build you can get. And it's not necessarily the most expensive on the block. Regardless, I've got 3 great options for you to go over in today's video. How's it going? As always, my name is Jimmy Champagne. This is Deck Ready, my channel all about Steam hardware, and I hope you are having a great week playing a ton of video games. Yes, you specifically. Either way, let me know what you're playing down in the comments below. 80% of the people who watch this channel are not subscribed, so if you're one of them, subscribe, set your notifications to all. But either way, let's get into the SteamOS portion of this video, and I'm just going to tell you whether or not it's worth it to make the jump from Windows. Because if you haven't heard, Valve officially released SteamOS, so the way you download it now is you go to the SteamOS recovery site. So like if you had to re-image your deck, that's probably a site you've been to before, but there's a slight change because now there's a little listing for installing SteamOS on your PC. They are working on NVIDIA support, but as of right now, you need an all AMD build or an AMD GPU paired with an Intel CPU. I'm not necessarily sure how well it works on Intel CPUs because my only Intel build is my Alienware that I got on a deep clearance sale at Micro Center. It was an insane deal. It has an NVIDIA GPU, so I can't install SteamOS on it just yet. So for all intents and purposes, if you're really in the market right now and you don't want to wait, I would say make sure you're going into this with an all AMD build because that's what they've tested the most. Like it literally just got support for Intel chips, not even in the preview or beta. That was like a new addition very recently. So if you've got an AMD GPU paired with an Intel CPU, which I think is a pretty rare combo, you can try it out. Just know that all of my thoughts and opinions are from an all AMD build that I have been using for over a year at this point. And I'm just going to be real, the experience has been phenomenal. So like a good reference point is if you remember back to when the Steam Deck came out, we were getting updates for SteamOS seemingly every other day. They were fixing features, they were adding in features, they were changing the way it looked, they were changing the way it worked. We were getting new supported games all the time. That is not how the experience has been with SteamOS on this PC. The way I installed it was I went to the repository page, which is just a bunch of like IP addresses. I don't know why they're IP addresses, but you just click on them until you find a BZT file or a zip file. You flash it with Balena Etcher or Rufus to a USB stick. You pop it in your PC and then you boot from it. And then you just cross your fingers that you got the one that works. It took me about 3 or 4 different tries before I got it right. But once I got it right, it updated to the preview build main. So like the most bleeding edge possible version of SteamOS. And after that, it was absolutely fine. Like on the Steam Deck, when I update even to the beta, like the most one step above stable, it would have issues with just basic things that never really happened to me once in the past year. And just for a frame of reference of how much time I put into this stuff, I use that as my main PC. So when I sit down on my couch to play video games, I use that PC as if it's a console, like a big Steam Machine, because it is pretty big compared to the Steam Machine. And I've really had no issues with it like shutting off, never had graphics drivers break, never really had a game crash. Like it works exactly how I want it to. And the coolest part is it has worked that way for the entire year that I've used it. So like the official release of SteamOS takes that really good baseline and makes it even smoother and even better because they added stuff like a new graphics driver. They added stuff like a fully revamped settings window. Like everything just feels a lot cleaner, including the boot up screen because it's now generalized for SteamOS because SteamOS is no longer for the Steam Deck. So they took something that worked pretty well, made it a lot better, but that doesn't mean it's perfect though. There are a couple things you're going to have to keep in mind. So first of all, you need Proton GE. The best one to get is either 1034 or the new Proton GE 11. I know everyone kind of just defaults to installing this right when they get a SteamOS device anyway, but those 2 versions are important because if you have a newer AMD GPU like I do, the 9070 XT, you're going to want to take advantage of things like ray tracing and FSR4. And while Valve has been baking that stuff very quickly, actually, like they just added it recently into the official version of Proton, it's been in 1034 for a long time and has worked really well for me. So the way to turn on FSR4 in a game you know supports it but isn't showing it is you just add the launch command FSR upgrade. It takes 2 seconds, and then when you boot up the game, you will see a completely different settings menu that shows you the way to implement FSR4, which you're going to want to do because FSR3 is pretty abysmal these days. Like, I know I have a little bit of a tainted opinion on this because I have a 5080 equipped PC, so I have a direct comparison to the latest version of DLSS. Even with that in mind, FSR3 is nowhere near good at all. So like, you're going to want to go through that extra step to get FSR4, but like, you could set it to be the global Proton for the entire PC. And then sometimes you don't even have to put in the launch command to get FSR to show up. So I think that's definitely the first thing you should do. The second thing is some games, less and less as time is going on because people are getting ready for the Steam machine, but some games nonetheless still think that a PC running SteamOS is a Steam Deck, and it locks down the graphic settings to just be the Steam Deck's preset, which is the lowest of the absolute low at 1280 by 800. So if you're on a 4K TV or like a 1440p monitor, you're just going to boot this game up and be like, wow, that looks like dog shit, man. I got to do something. So the way to get around that, you just go into the launch commands and type in Steam Deck equals 0% command %, bam, it's fixed. You have the full settings suite that every game ships with. And then finally, I know someone's going to complain if I don't mention it. There's the whole anti-cheat thing. I see this a lot more on X than I do in my comments, to be fair, but like, it really depends how much you value playing games like Battlefield 6, Call of Duty, Fortnite, you know, these games that ship with anti-cheat that doesn't work on Linux. For me, fortunately, all the multiplayer games I play right now, like Dead by Daylight, work absolutely fine out of the box. Arc Raiders works fine. The Finals works fine. Like, people think that no multiplayer games work well on SteamOS or at all. It's really just like a select few. Like, if you go to the top 10 most played multiplayer games on Steam, 7 out of 10 of them worked, and the standouts were Call of Duty and a couple of others. So like, the vast majority of multiplayer games will work just fine. It's just people complain if I don't mention it. So it doesn't matter because they are working on breaking those barriers down. The Steam machine and more pre-built PCs shipping with SteamOS will most assuredly get that fixed soon. But like, if you're not convinced, both AMD and Epic Games hired someone just to work on Linux anti-cheat. So it looks like that's going to be resolved sooner rather than later. But like, other than that, really haven't had many issues or any at all with SteamOS. So those are three, in my opinion, very small issues I've had with SteamOS so far. Other than that, I mean, I leave it in sleep mode. It works excellent. I barely ever have to restart it. Updating goes really quickly. It used to take a long time. They have done a really good job getting it up to par. And every time there's people who are like, why aren't you using Bazite? Why aren't you using Cache? Just gotta say, I've used both. I like SteamOS. The channel's called Deck Ready. I'm a Steam/Valve fanboy, but like, anecdotally, I've had a lot less issues with SteamOS than I had with Bazite. Bazite had a lot of stuttering issues. It broke, games crashed. It was much more irritating to work with for me than SteamOS. So I like SteamOS. The video is about ditching Windows for SteamOS. You should have known that when you clicked on it because of the thumbnail and the title, but I got to cover my bases here. So now that I've convinced you that SteamOS is awesome, what PCs should you install it on? I've picked out 3. I got to give some caveats though. None of these are nearly as small as the Steam machine. One gets close, but it's still not as small as the Steam machine. None of them have HDMI CEC support. Again, you can set that up yourself. Apparently it's easy. I had a difficult time with it. And all of them are bring your own controller. So if you got a Steam controller, you're good to go. My other recommendation is the 8-Bit Do Ultimate 2. That was my go-to before the Steam controller, but those are the only 2 I would recommend for PCs that I'm about to recommend as well. I'm going to start out with the PC I built because I love it and I can't recommend it enough. This is by far the most expensive PC on the list, but it's still not that expensive. Unfortunately, because I built this over the course of 2025, a few of the parts that I bought are no longer available, but I found some alternatives that I did some research on and they should work just fine. All these recommendations are coming from Micro Center. I don't have affiliates set up. I just don't want to recommend anything from Best Buy or Walmart because I've seen some builds people are buying and they are not worth it in my opinion. They're not safe. So you can actually bundle the RAM, the motherboard, and the CPU together for a cost of $779. The RAM is definitely the biggest contributor there. This bundle comes with 32 gigabytes of Corsair RAM. That's what I have. It works absolutely fine. I know there's a lot of optimizations going on to require less RAM, but like theoretically, you're going to stick with this PC for a long time. So do what I did and get 32 gigs of RAM because right now it's the cheapest it'll ever be, or at least for a while. CPU 9800X3D. It's incredible. I can't say enough good things about it. I actually started with the 7600X3D. It's a 7600 CPU Ryzen 5 or for 7, and it was limiting the GPU, so I had to upgrade. I've had zero issues since. This CPU never throttles my GPU, so it's awesome. The motherboard is a Gigabyte X Wi-Fi 6E AM5. It's the right socket for the CPU, which is important. It's got some good IO. It'll fit in pretty much any big case, so like I don't feel like I have to sell you on the motherboard. This is a pretty good bundle. The most embarrassing part of my build is the CPU cooler. I got the Cooler Master Hyper 212, which is just a fan. It's got no liquid cooling, it's got no lights, it's got nothing. It's just a fan that sits on top of the CPU, but it does its job well, and it's only $30. It's so cheap. The GPU is the 9070 XT. This is an incredible card. Like, there was always AMD propaganda to never go with AMD when I was growing up, but I just picked this one up because I was like, good AMD card in Google, and that's what came up. The one I bought is a Power Color Hellhound. I couldn't find one of those, and the price went way up from what I paid. So if you want to pay what I paid, which is $650, you can get the Power Color Reaper 9070 XT for $659, which is only $60 over MSRP of $600. This thing's awesome. It works well with 1440p, like amazingly well with 1440p, but you can push it to 4K in older games, or even some newer ones like Dying Light the Beast. I ran on Ultra with FSR 4 set to quality. At 4K, it kept 60 FPS throughout the entire game, and that's a really good looking game. I really haven't had performance issues in anything, even Unreal Engine 5 games. Like, this is one of, if not the best GPUs I've ever owned, and it's like on par with a 5070 Ti, I guess. Either way, this thing's awesome, which is why I'm recommending it. The case is the Fractal North. It's $164. It's by no means small, but it looks good in a living room, which I'm assuming is where you're going to want to put this PC. It passes the wife check. My wife is fine with it sitting next to our TV stand. Again, it's $164. It's easy to work with. It's got a lot of ports, and it looks nice. So like, I recommend this case, and I think a lot of other people would too, because I'm pretty sure it's the most popular PC case on the market. Do not buy a $30 power supply. A lot of people recommend only 750 watts for this CPU GPU combo. That's exactly what you need, so I would just pay a little bit more and go 850 watts. You can get the one I recommended for $110. There are cheaper ones out there, but like, don't cheap out on the power supply, because if you value your possessions, you don't want them all burning down, engulfing in flames because you went with a cheap PSU. Just pay a little bit more. Don't go for the ones that are like exorbitantly overpriced, promising you like RGB or like crazy performance. They're not going to do anything like that, but don't cheap out. Go for the Goldilocks zone, which is one step up from the bottom. Doing the math, it comes out to $2,111, which is not cheap, but also it could be a lot more expensive. I was expecting it to be more expensive. I paid around $1,700 because I started with a PC I got on Facebook Marketplace and then upgraded the CPU and GPU, and everything's been fine since. But yeah, I think that price is more than fair for what you're getting. This is a PC that's going to last you a long time, but if you're sitting there saying that's out of my price range, that's out of my budget, I'm going to recommend the Meta PC's Steamroller next. This thing's only $1,200, but it gets a little bit better performance than the Steam Machine because it's basically using the desktop version of the Steam Machine's parts. It's not huge by any means, but it's also not as small as the Steam Machine. Either way, it's a pretty nice looking understated mini PC that'll fit under your TV. And the coolest thing is, I'm pretty sure it's the first example of a pre-built PC being sold by another company that ships with SteamOS. So this one's going to be pretty plug and play out of the box, just like the Steam Machine. Again, it's $1,300, does not come with a controller, is not as small as the Steam Machine, and lacks HDMI CEC. But if you're on the wait list and you have the money right now, I don't think you could go wrong picking this thing up. I think Meta PCs is supposed to be pretty good from my light research, and it's sold out right now, but it's been coming in and out of stock for pre-order, so I'm assuming you'll be able to get it a little bit quicker than the Steam Machine. It also retains the 16 gigs of RAM, so it's very on par with the Steam Machine. Like, some games it'll get slightly better performance, but nothing really all that noticeable in my opinion. So it's not really like an upgrade, but it's also not really a downgrade either. It's just basically like an alternative version of the Steam Machine. So that covers the highest end and the lowest end. I know there's $800 ones at Best Buy and maybe Costco or something like that. Don't trust those brands, man. Like, I know it's a little elitist of me, and I know people are budget minded, but you get what you pay for when it comes to PCs, and that goes both ways. So I would just stay away from the absolute dirt cheapest options, like these brands no one's ever heard of. Start start with meta PCs and work your way up from there, and don't overpay for a pre-built from like Dell or something like that, and you'll be just fine. But I found one more recommendation that should be good for 1440p gaming, which is from Micro Center. It's from PowerSpec, which I guess is their in-house pre-built brand. I've always had good luck with Micro Center, so I have no problem recommending what they sell. It's on sale right now for $1,200. Normally it's $1,500. It comes with the 9060 XT, which is one step down from the 9070 XT. It's a 1440p card, but you know, it'll really fly with 1080p games just like the Steam machine. It's nowhere near as small, but it comes with the 7500 X3D CPU, which will be fine for that GPU. The upgradability, I would think you would want to upgrade that CPU if you graduate to a 9070 XT down the line, but that's not that big of an expense. Just keep it in mind. But I gotta be real, finding all AMD pre-builts that aren't from insane brands that I've never heard of or aren't extremely overpriced was pretty difficult. So it just goes to show maybe Valve didn't go into this trying to screw everyone over like some people on X seem to think. But I love my SteamOS PC. I can't recommend it enough if you've got around $2,000 for it. It was really easy to put together because the case is big and has a lot of room to work in. But hopefully those three options gave you something to chase or pick up right now because you're mad you got put on the 2027 release date wish list for the Steam machine. But yeah, that's all I've got for you in today's video. As always, my name is Jimmy Champagne. I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching and shape on.